Is Florida State's defense ready to take on a unique Cal Bears offense?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles football with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. This week, Florida State will take on the Cal Bears, and it is a unique situation because Cal's offense is very much a pro-style offense. Totally different than what the Seminoles played in the first 2 weeks, but at least somewhat similar to what Memphis runs. So we're going to talk about that. But the good news is, regardless of who they're playing, thank goodness, Florida State's defense is much better. And that's what we're going to start with today before we go over the Cal Bear players to know about. Number one, just effort. I just want to comment on Florida State's effort as a unit. Bud Elliott even mentioned this on his podcast, talking about he was proud that the way they came out with fight, with energy, and getting after Memphis from the outset of the game. And as a person watching the game, whether you're a diehard, whether you're somebody that just watches the game casually, anywhere in between, you want to see effort, right? Did we really see maximum effort in the first two games? That would be a no. But Florida State played much harder. Joshua Farmer, by the way, took a humongous step forward. I don't know what happened with Joshua, but he was tremendously better. And that helped in the middle of the defensive line. They ran to the football better. There were several miscues, and I will get into this in a little bit in the show, in the back seven, but overall going to the football, chasing it down, gang tackling, attacking gaps, getting after the quarterback. They were pretty good. They had 3 sacks and could have had a couple more against the Memphis Tigers. So that's pretty good. And here are a few stats that I just want to share too regarding Florida State and Memphis. If you hold a team to 337 yards, especially on your home field, you should win. Florida State didn't, despite the fact that the offense obviously is inept. They were outpaced in terms of possessions, using the clock by the Memphis Tigers, something like 36 minutes and change to 23 minutes and change. The defense hung in there despite a lot of negativity because it would have been easy just to kind of fold the tent. But Florida State, they did a pretty good job, and at least they were in the game all the way to the very, very end. Now, as far as what they need to work on, it's, again, the back seven. But I think the defense has found some rhythm. Hopefully Shaheem Brown's back. Hopefully they get a few more guys just, that have been a little bumped up with some, common bruises that you get in football. They're healthier. But overall, I think the team should feel better about the defense, and fans should too. I'm not saying you're going to win by holding teams to 10 points in today's era. You're not, especially going against Fernando Mendoza. He will be a very big part of this discussion in about 5 to 10 minutes. He is the quarterback for the Cal Bears, extremely accurate. He's pretty much a carbon copy of a certain quarterback Florida State just went against in Memphis, so Seth Hennigan. But I think that Florida State at least has a blueprint for how to go about things. And again, if you hold somebody to 20 points that has a legit QB that's going to make an NFL roster, you know what? The offense has to do its part too. If you told the Florida State coaches right now, Cal's going to get 20, would you take that or would you punt on it? I would almost guarantee you the Florida State coaches would take that because they know he's a good quarterback and they got some pretty good skill talent too. The only other thing I want to say in this little opening part of the show, Florida State's pass rush surprised me, like it went up incredibly well. Now can they do a little bit more to create turnovers? It's the final piece to the puzzle. It's the end-all, be-all for football games at the high school, college, and obviously the NFL too. If you win the turnover battle 9 times out of 10, you're in a pretty good spot. Florida State had 3 turnovers in the first half against Memphis. One was that goofy play on special teams. That was truly unfortunate. But the second play of the game, one of your experienced leaders at running back gets the ball popped out, helmet on the ball. Like everything has gone wrong for the defense, and they hung in there. If Florida State is just 1-1 in turnovers, like just played even, they probably beat Memphis. So I'm curious to see if they can do that this week, or maybe they get a fumble, a scoop, and score. Florida State is due. They are due for something to go right on the defensive side of the ball, where they get a freebie, or at least set up the Noles offense inside the 15, maybe even like at the 8-yard line for Cal. The law of averages eventually swing your way, right? At least that's kind of how I see it. As far as other stats here, Memphis was 7-17. I honestly think it'll be similar for Cal. They're pretty good with the short passing game, although the book is out on them, and that's part of the strategy I'll talk about in a second. They're not a good running team. UC Davis held them to under 3 yards a carry. That was their first game of the year. They did pop a key run against Auburn. That's a game I was at, and that was the only decent run they had of the whole game. Their star running back had 10 carries for 11 yards, Jaden Ott. I mean, they completely shut him down, but the passing of Mendoza was the deal. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But Florida State has the recipe based on their style just naturally to take away a lot of the things that the Cal Bears will try to do offensively. Short passing game. They try to hit a few plays in the run game, but they're not dynamic there because their offensive line's their weakest link on the offense. No doubt about it. It's the weakest link. Quarterback is really good. They've got an elite freshman receiver. He's got 4 touchdowns already. Talk about him in a little bit. And they also have a couple of really talented running backs in addition to Jaden Ott that are actually having a better year, because with Jaden Ott's in the backfield, teams just go, shh. They just bring everybody in the box. I think they're going to have to start motioning him out and using him as a decoy more, because he's not having a very good year with that offensive line. So curious about that. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the strategy in depth on getting after them and some of the Cal Bears key players, because there are some good matchups here. I think it's going to be kind of fun to talk about. That's next on Locked On Seminoles. Hey, Locked On Seminoles fans, have you heard about ROY? It stands for Return on You, and it's a new platform that allows you, the fans, to get involved with NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. Directly support the players. ROY allows fans to directly back their favorite teams, their athletes, whatever you want to do. That is up to you and who it goes to. You can play a key role in shaping the future of the favorite teams while athletes maximize their name, image, and likeness. So, download ROY for iOS or Android and enter referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit roy.com for additional details. Get off the sidelines and get into NIL game with ROY. Cal's offense is based on a pro-style concept. Think West Coast. And Cal, I mean, it kind of fits. The Cal Bears are not that far from where the 49ers have their headquarters. And, of course, the San Francisco 49ers are the famous team with Joe Montana from the 80s and all these teams from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s that ran the West Coast. Their offense is similar. A ton of shifts, a ton of motions, a ton of changing after the snap on what you think they're going to do to what they do. It is complex. They are trying to get matchups in very basic one-on-ones or guys that are just, quite honestly, being used in pick routes to get somebody wide open. A few weeks ago when I saw them play Auburn, at one point they were 8 for 9, if I recall correctly, on third downs that were less than 5 yards. That's insane. The reason? Their tight ends, running backs, and receivers are in harmony in how they run routes to set each other up. They kill you in the flat with passes to any of the three, running backs, receivers, or tight ends, and they all have excellent hands. They do not drop the football, unlike Florida State's receivers for quite a bit of this year, among other players on the team. So Florida State has to be ready for that. And what's the matchup? Well, this is what I think Florida State will do. Number one, they're going to play kind of like they normally do. They'll be aggressive. That is what Surtain likes. That's what they have done since the staff's been here. They're aggressive in general. They'll play short. They'll play everything like it's going to be 10 yards or less, barring an unusual situation. 3rd and 20 is different. But 1st and 10, 2nd and 5, they will be aggressive. That's what Auburn did too, and they still picked them apart. Fernando Mendoza is elite with his accuracy. It's annoying, just like it was with Hennigan, to go against guys like this because he's not going to miss an open throw very often. Maybe one a game. He's that guy that paints the corner as a pitcher. That is Fernando Mendoza. He's also a kid from Miami, so he has a little chip to grind because he didn't get an offer from the Noles. Ends up going all the way out to Cal. So he's made his mark, and he's a pretty good quarterback. Also, this is just something that I think is going to happen. The book is out on them on what they're going to do. And again, they can't run the ball to save their life. They stink at running the football, in fact. So a couple of stats here. Even with a guy that I think is going to get drafted and multiple skill players that will probably play in the NFL, this is hard to believe, they're still only averaging 27.7 points per game, which is 80th in the nation. The reason? They're not explosive at all. Passing, one of the stats I talk about all the time with Florida State. Passing plays of 20 or more yards. Well, for Cal, they stink. They're 111th in the nation with 5 of them. And they've got a receiver with 4 touchdowns. They make jump ball catches, contested catches, catch the football and get drilled, but they just don't make plays after the catch that much. They don't. Florida State needs to be able, even if it's just one play in the game, just one, they've got to take one of those short passes to the house or at least pick it off. They're going to throw short, then they're going to throw short, and then they're going to throw short again. That's the MO. However, there is a caveat. Cal knows Florida State is down. If you want to take the crowd out of a game at home when that team is struggling, there's a real easy way to do it. If you get a trick play and it's just wide open and everybody can see it's going to be a bad play for the defense and your team, before it completely comes to fruition, you can hear the boos and the uh-ohs from the crowd before the ball even goes into the hands of the tight end or the receiver or whatever. A flea flicker, a reverse double pass, something like that. You're going to see something from Cal. I guarantee it. Why? They've got nothing to lose here. They're playing with house money. It's Cal. And quite honestly, Florida State's defense is not disciplined. The one thing that I mentioned a little bit ago in the show is so true and so sad. Florida State's back 7 in coverage gets confused constantly. It's the one bugaboo from the game against Memphis. It was all the time. It was embarrassing how bad it was. Guys, especially towards the perimeter, towards the sideline, being let go. 3rd game into the year with Florida State's defensive staff, there's a problem there. There's a big problem there. They got some younger guys in there, etc., but they looked lost too often. And it can't happen at all. Against Fernando Mendoza, that will cost you the game. So with that, a couple of players before I go into some of the stats that are going to be important overall. I want to get into some team stuff here in a minute, but first, these are the key guys to know about for Cal. Javion Thomas is a running back that nobody thought was going to be great this year. Everybody thought it was going to be Jaden Ott, but he's averaging 7.8 yards a carry with a bad offensive line. He hits the crease. He's one of the rare guys. He can take it. He can go. When number 25 is in the offensive backfield, watch him. If he's in the slot, watch him. He can be their guy. Maybe he's the new guy on the block for the Cal Bears. I don't know. Jaden Ott's supposed to be their guy, but everybody knows it. Like he was good last year, no question. He's got 60 yards. He's averaging 2.5 yards a carry. When he's in the backfield, they gave him the ball. Well, the other teams know that now. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with him. Really talented, but he's had nowhere to go. I'm surprised he's averaging 2.5 from what film I've seen and seeing them live. Like their offensive line stinks in run ball. They stink. So they need to figure out a way to get him the ball in space. Maybe they're going to throw some screens to him. That's something else to look out for. Maybe Jaden is out there at the same time as Javion. Possibly. Maybe one's in the backfield. Maybe one's in the slot. Florida State needs to be ready for those guys motioning, jet motion, coming back across the formation underneath the offensive line, even after the snap. You will see a plethora of stuff that you just can't really play in practice completely. There's just too many things. Their offensive playbook is massive. You must be ready as players, this is not on coaches, this is on players to adjust on the fly. You are going to see stuff that you're not ready for. And these guys are already talented. If you don't prepare yourself for the unexpected, you're going to get caught pretty easily. The guy that I didn't know anything about before this year, he's a freshman, Nyziah Hunter. Bigger receiver, great hands. He made a catch right in front of me against Auburn. Back corner, took it right away from the DB. He's legit. 4 touchdowns in 3 games for a mediocre offense. As a freshman, this is the guy that you have to slow down. Big-bodied kid, 6'1", 6'2", over 200 pounds. He can play for any school in the country. I didn't know who he was, but Cal obviously figured that one out, and good for their staff. He's got NFL potential. Possession receiver mostly, but I think he's a guy that you just got to know where he's at all the time because he doesn't drop the football. He makes clutch catches. He is number 13, and he's their dude. So far this year, 12 catches, 143 yards, 11.9. And again, most important stat, 4 touchdowns. Now, Mendoza is an interesting cat because, again, he's from Miami, played at Columbus. He's a guy that probably is mad at all the Florida schools that didn't go after him. Bigger quarterback, 6'4", 6'5", over 200 pounds. Not super athletic. He's like Hennigan. He'll take off and get 5 yards here or there, but he wants to move the pocket, throw off his back foot, lean into it, normal set, doesn't matter. He's a guy that's accurate no matter what he does. You just got to sack him. He makes awkward throws accurately all the time. Really unfortunate for a defender when you get in his face. If you don't sack him or deflect the ball, chances are it's still going to find its mark because he knows where everybody is. He knows where his checkdowns are. He'll hit a 3-yard pass. He just finds a way to annoy you. It's kind of like death through 1,000 paper cuts. That's who he is. So far this year, Fernando is 61 to 87, 70.1%, 589 yards, only 6.8 yards per attempt. Again, they throw a lot of short passes. 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. The best thing with him are his third down numbers. Like, he is just crazy good on third downs. This is, pressure's on, right? You want to make sure that as a team, you put your quarterback in the best situations. Well, the way you do that is to run the football, be balanced, not put a lot of pressure on any one guy. Well, Mendoza, despite being a younger quarterback, he's only played 2 years, but that being said, he's as clutch on third down as about anybody I've seen this season. So far on third downs, he's 16 to 24, so 66.7%, 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's just elite. Third down with 1 to 3 yards to go, he's 7 out of 8. It's insane. He's just that accurate. He doesn't care if he throws to the tight end, the running back, the receiver. He hits the guy that's open. He's as point blank, just trying to get the ball distributed as you can be. And he fits the West Coast kind of offense that they run really well. Last point here before we go into the final part about what I think Florida State has to do, some key questions and points. Florida State is in a good spot defensively because they're playing better, and this team doesn't have the speed, I don't think, to really challenge them vertically on a consistent basis. So they can play their base package, but they still have to get away to get into his head, get him off his rhythm early. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. Part of it is just the guy's hot one day, and you got to deal with it if he is. But if Fernando is taken back by getting sacked early, maybe Patrick Payton or somebody deflects the pass, you get a pick, maybe pick 6. That'd be better for the Noles. If you can get something like that to go your way, it changes the course of the game. But you need to do it early. Cal gains their composure, gets their footing, and scores a touchdown, or at least gets a field goal on that first drive, gets some comfort. That's not good. Florida State's offense is struggling, and they'll be lucky to score 20 points if I was to guess. To prove me wrong, I hope I am. But why would you think that? Florida State needs to do as good, if not better, than what they did against Memphis. That's asking a lot. I get that, but the blueprint is out, and you've played a team similar in Memphis. Their offenses aren't that far apart. So the shifts in motions, kind of like Memphis does. Cal does even more, but at least you have an idea. You're playing a team that's similar back-to-back weeks. These are advantages. You have to take advantage of those every single series, no exceptions. Coming up next, a few keys to end up the show and how Florida State can win on defense. That's next on Locked On Seminoles. You heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Florida State, there's a few things they have to do to win this game beyond the obvious. Don't give up, just bus, tackle better, etc. Those things have kind of started to go in the right direction. They just got to figure out what's going on with the switches in the secondary. That was a problem against Memphis. Again, though, similar offense that you're playing this week, at least in theory, so you should be a little more prepared. But here are a few of the things that I have written down, and I'm curious if you want to comment on this or add on to it, fire away. Number one, can Florida State just man up and take away the short passing game? It's a question. Here's why I say that. They're going to run about a bazillion rubs and different kind of pick plays. They're annoying. I didn't say they weren't talented, but more importantly, they're annoying as a man-to-man kind of concept team like Florida State. With the problems the Noles have had with switches, I'm concerned there's going to be at least one, at minimum, where a guy just trots down the sideline for an easy touchdown. That can't happen. Right now, why would I believe it's not based on the Memphis game? Because there were 4 or 5 plays at least where guys were just scot-free. You do that against a quality quarterback, you'll be in trouble, and Fernando Mendoza is more than a quality quarterback. Again, 70.1%. So they're not afraid. They already won at Auburn. They know how to play big boy football. They have guys that'll catch it. They're very, very consistent across the board, running back, receiver, tight end. You've got to figure out the switches and all that to play your base defense. We'll see what Florida State does, but that's important, not only with DBs, linebackers. That's my bigger concern. We'll see how that goes, but they need that to be a part of their package where they can play man. They have to play just zone. Florida State's probably in trouble. Number 2, the front 7. Cal's offensive line, again, they're just not very good. I'm not trying to be mean. They're just not very good. Can you not give up the big chunk play? That's what killed Auburn. They lost by 7. Later in the game, Cal was just trying to run out the clock. They ran a basic dive play. Somebody took the wrong run gap fit, didn't get touched and scored. Well, if you give teams touchdowns, they're going to beat you. And that was the final score of the game for Cal to ice it. Florida State can't do that. If they can hold Cal to like 17 or something with a couple extra stuffs, hold them to about 2.5 yards a carry, they've got a great chance to win the football game. It's doable. Again, this is more about execution than it is anything else. Florida State's D-line's way more talented than Cal's offensive line, but you got to be mentally prepared for this. No freelancing. You can't leave your gap in a pass rush situation, even if that means not padding your own personal stats. Something I'm a little concerned about with Florida State because I do not think this is a selfless team, but that's a very important point. Then finally, sacks. As far as the D-line, let's just stick with that. Minimum 3 sacks are needed. Mendoza's not the most athletic guy. The O-line's not that great. The running game is not that great. You're going to have chances. Minimum 3 sacks. A couple other extras, just kind of as a point. Win first down. This will be hard. This may be the biggest ask out of the 6 I'm going to give. Cal is diverse on offense, and until you physically see it for about a half to 3/4, it'll be hard to explain, but they shift in motion. Guys lined up in different spots. They're annoying. They make you think. They're going to try to get little guys on your big guys and vice versa. And they're going to do it sometimes. It's just the way football is. Too bad. Do it anyway. That's kind of an old saying your parents talk about to their kids. Well, I was saying that as a football guy. There are going to be some times a linebacker's on a tight end, and it's not necessarily the greatest matchup, or maybe a big receiver. It's not a good match. Too bad. You got to do it anyway. You can't miss tackles if they catch it. Somebody's got to pop a ball loose. You got to make big plays. Florida State hasn't done that this year. on defense. Even when they've tackled well in stretches of games, certainly hasn't been a game they've tackled well the entire game, but they've gotten better. They need a big play, something that gets them going, and hopefully it's on one of the first downs. They need a momentum shift. Cal is going to be very well coached and very well prepared. I need to see Florida State be ready for that. And again, I know the coaches know what I'm talking about with Cal's offense being annoying. Now to the players, take to the coaching all week long and maximize it on the game time. I mean, we'll have to see. The trick plays I mentioned a little bit ago, you're probably going to see a couple. How do you react to it? If you struggle with the run game early on, especially then you'll see a reverse pass or something. That's why another reason it's important to slow down the run. And finally, just attack the line of scrimmage with your responsibility. Again, freelancing is an absolute no against any team, but against Cal, it's an extreme no. It'll be a touchdown. Mendoza will expose you. He's one of the smartest quarterbacks I've seen this year. And it's not that he's got like incredibly overwhelming talent. He's got a decent arm, nothing great, but he sees the field well. He's a 6'4", 6'5" guy. He's patient. He avoids the rush. He extends plays, and he just knows where his guys are. If somebody has a bust, he'll get the ball to him. Know your assignment. Do your job. Sounds easy, but Florida State surely didn't do that against Memphis, because if they'd done it, although the defense played better, they would have won, even with an atrocious offense, which I will have to preview tomorrow, but we'll get into that on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. We'll talk more offense, but I wanted to give some props today to Florida State's defense because it's improved. They still have a ways to go, but compared to where they were in week one, holy moly, Florida State is in a much better place defensively. So there's something to talk about for positivity there, and we'll get into that. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit more about the depth chart. I'm not sure how much I believe it. That's why I didn't talk about it today. Need to kind of go into that. Even Bud Elliott even talked about that on X, kind of joking about DJ being the projected starter. We'll talk about that tomorrow and hopefully get some injury news. I don't know if I will or not, but that will be the show coming up late on Tuesday. Everybody have a good night, and I will talk to you tomorrow.